Welcome to another episode of the Walk Foundation's March Madness podcast series. Today's episode is brought to you by Visit Tuscaloosa. Today we'll be going through the journey of Klark James, a walk-on for the University of Alabama. Klark played at a small high school in Alabama and had no college offers coming out of high school. He'll share the story of his amazing journey from no college offers to then walking on to the University of Alabama and having a chance to compete in the national championship game. Hope you enjoy the show.
Yeah, man.
Welcome to the show, Klark.
Thanks for having me.
So, Klark, you've had an amazing journey. Grew up in the state of Alabama. Let's start at the beginning. So, what town did you grow up in, and what was life like growing up?
Yeah, I grew up small town. It's called Newsite, Alabama. Even the people in Alabama probably don't know where it's at. It's central in between Birmingham and Auburn. So it's 800 people. Like that probably fluctuates from 700 to 800, but not many people at all. We've got until I was 16, we only had one restaurant, and it was a hometown cafe. So we ate at home a lot. There wasn't a lot. We would have to drive 20 minutes to get McDonald's or something. McDonald's isn't really worth all that. So we would eat grandma's cooking. It was a super small town, but so there's not a lot of opportunity, but everything's family oriented, and you get super close with the people around you, and it's just a good opportunity to just be super close with everybody around you. I would say I could go back to the school now, and I haven't been there in 2 years, but I would still know the kids who were in fourth grade when I was a senior, just because of I would know their parents and their parents' parents, and just everybody. This town's so small, but yeah, super small town, so getting looks from colleges was hard. And I'm not the biggest, not the just the best at what I do, but just the reason I'm here, true faith in God, and just I played travel, but I only played my senior year, so I got one season of 17U, and it didn't go the way I wanted. I didn't play in many tournaments just because I didn't get involved in a team that we were good, but I had just some things that came up, didn't go to a lot of tournaments, and then just growing up super faith-based, I was just always well, if I'm supposed to play college basketball, I'm going to play. That was my dream. I just wanted to play somewhere. And I spent I played baseball too. So I spent a lot of my, I would skip baseball practices to just drive across the South trying to go to these junior colleges and do just visits and open tryouts. And, there wasn't a lot of opportunity for me. And, I was pretty good, but I played at a small school. So I got kind of underlooked because of the small school, and I'm 6 foot.
How many students were in your high school?
There were I think 800 people, but it was K through 12.
Okay.
So it was you walk in the school, and there's the auditorium lunchroom area where you would eat, and then you would go to the left, and it would branch off to the K through 6, and then you would go to the right, and it would branch off to 7 through 12.
So your graduating class was about how
50?
many people? 50.
Okay. Not big at all. So it was
from
cool.
A basketball standpoint, you didn't have McDonald's, but did you have a nice basketball gym to play in, or?
It was okay. We got the floor redone my 9th grade year, so that was good, because if we wouldn't have, it would have been playing on this tile right here. It was slick. When the cold weather comes through, it gets super dusty, and we weren't a big school, so we didn't have all the people to come through and wax it every game. And it was not up to, the standards that I'm used to now, which I'm spoiled by playing at this level, but it definitely wasn't as nice as it could have been. But I'd say for a 2A gym, we had a pretty nice floor. And it probably held 800 people or 500 people, something like that. It wasn't super crazy, but it was a good spot to play. And obviously we would play places where I was dang, this is way better than ours, but comparison is the thief of joy. You can't. Mm-hmm. So, yeah, it was a pretty nice spot.
Was there any moment growing up where you thought about, oh, I want to play basketball for Alabama?
So my mom kind of instilled in me, just roll tide, go Alabama. And I was never really crazy Alabama basketball fan, but, we're in the South. Football is huge. So growing up watching, the whole Alabama dynasty of football was fun. And, like, we would go to games sometimes. But, like,
Did you have a favorite player growing up?
For football?
Yeah.
Probably Julio Jones.
Okay.
He was always him and Mark Ingram. Man, Mark Ingram would come across and throw up the A on his glove. That was cool. But I mean, yeah, I always wanted to play, but then, like, I'm an undersized kid from a small school. Everybody always told me, like, there was no shot. So I kind of just threw those dreams in the trash when I was in, like, 7th grade, and everybody told me that I wasn't going to be able to do it. So yeah, it was always, like, in the back of my mind, like, if I could choose, like, I would love to play for the home state at Bama, but then, everybody kind of told me I wasn't going to be able to. So I was like, I'm going to go the JUCO route. And if there's any opportunity to transfer out and go bigger, then that'll be what I do. But like I said, after high school, there wasn't much opportunity. So that kind of left me in the spot to kind of go try out at all these JUCOs. And then nobody really gave me a opportunity. So I had like one JUCO actually like the summer after, kind of like as I was going into school, or I was graduating, it was May, and I was like, it's like May 4th. Like, I got to figure out like where I'm going to school. Like, everybody around me, they've been known since October. And I was like, this isn't like ideal for me to not know. Like, everybody that I'm friends with that was on my AAU team, they've already like had their signing day. They're already committed. And I'm like, when do I get mine? Like, so then I kind of became like frustrated of just like, where am I going to go? And like, I had some stuff going in my life where I was like, probably the most like upset I've been. Like,
And this is the end of your senior year?
End of senior year, just anxiety, depression, just kind of going through like a dark spot. So I really started to like try to fall in love with the word. And like, I've always kind of had it instilled in my life since, my brother's been the best to me. Like, growing up with, he went to a Christian university, and then my parents have always been great about it. My grandparents, and like, we're from the South. It's Bible Belt, all this. Like, it's real, and they've tried to instill that into me growing up. And my brother actually just became a pastor and just actually got his first job. So I'm super proud of him, man. The Lord's been working, and I know he's going to be a light. He does a Bible study with, me and some of my teammates from last year, still like on FaceTime once a week. So just him growing up, trying to instill that in my life, and they did. So, I mean, I started to fall on that as like I should have in the first place instead of worrying. But I mean, that's the hard part. So life threw a curveball. I didn't get to, just commit to a school, have a signing day. So I get a letter in the mail to come to Alabama, and I'm just like, I'm not going to Alabama to be a regular student. Like, I'm going to go walk on to the JUCO, and, it's not going to be that expensive. So I get the letter and I open it up, and I'm like, it's going to be like, come visit, come tour, regular student. I open it up and it's a scholarship. And I'm like, I'm not going to Alabama. So I crumple it up, throw it in the trash. And my dad is big on checking mail. So my dad comes in and he's like, what'd you throw away? I was like, I was just like, come visit. So of course he's nosy. He going to open it up. And he's like, I don't know, but I think this is wrong. Like, I think you got a scholarship. I was like, nah, like, not me. Like, I'm not crazy smart. I probably had like a 3.6 GPA in high school. So I'm like, nah, that's wrong. So he's like, I'm going to take this to your counselor. So I'm like, all right, whatever. So he takes it to my counselor in the morning. I get a call like in the middle of math class. I'm like, thank goodness I'm getting out of math. Like, I hate math. So they get me out of math, and pretty much I just go in there, and Miss Lewis, I'll never forget, she sits me down, and my counselor, she was just like, well, you got a scholarship to Bama. It's going to pay your tuition for 4 years and your room and board. And I was just like, so what do I have left to pay? And she was like, fees. Other than that, it'll be free. And I'm like, free school? Like, I still don't want to go to Bama. So I'm like, whatever. So I sit down with her, and she's like, all right, so which dorm would you like to live in? And I'm like, huh? And we literally signed up for classes that day. And it was just like, why am I signing up for classes? Like, I don't want to go to Alabama. So I kind of signed up for classes that day, and it was just interesting because like my whole life changed from that day on. And I was like, wow, I'm really about to just go to Alabama and be a regular student. Like, this is going to suck. Because like basketball had been so deep in my life from since I was younger. And I ended up going and like was super upset. Like I was working out every day and then I stopped throughout that whole summer. And then I was just like so upset, kind of depressed, and just anxiety took control. And I was just upset the whole summer. So I stopped working out and then I finally come back to Bama and I'm just like, first couple of days, I'm like, well, what is there to do? Like, I don't have basketball anymore. Like, I'm just a regular student. So I was going to like cook out and eating. Like, I had never been in a big city. So I'm in this, we got restaurants now. I'm like, fast food, let's go. I'm going to get ice cream at like 3 a.m. and I'm living my best life. But then I'm like, but what am I doing? Like, there's no purpose I'm living my life for. So then I saw a flyer about walk-on tryouts for the team. And I mean, my trainer always told me, he was like, you could always walk on. And I was like, I'm not good enough. So I got the opportunity to kind of go to these tryouts and we had to send in like a resume. And I was like, a resume? Like, this ain't a job. And it is a job. But I was like, there's no way I'm going to get it. So I sent in the resume. They were like, I was waiting and waiting. Weeks go by and then I'm just like, all right, like I get an email and I open it up so fast in the middle of class and it's just like tryouts tomorrow. I'm like, tomorrow? Like, I'm not ready. Like, what? So I go to tryouts. There's probably like 40 kids there. And
Do you
Shark,
know how many resumes were sent in?
no, but I know it was way more than 40 because they talked about that at the tryout, that they were like, this isn't even half the kids that wanted to come. So I guess they kind of just kicked out some of the guys that didn't want to come. So, I mean, that's just a blessing that I got into the tryout. Well, went in, it was like 5-on-5, like a little bit of 1v1. And then at the end, they were just cutting people like there. So like we would do like 5-on-5s, like long way, there were 2 courts. And you would like take turns with your team and sub in and out. And there were probably like 8 people per team. And then like AB, Adam Bowman, would come in the middle of our floor and he would be like, all right, line up on the baseline. If I call your name, you're good to stay. If not, you're good to go. And this is like 5:45 a.m. So I'm like, I didn't wake up this early to like get cut first round. So like I can't get cut first round. I do pretty good and then they keep us and they just keep doing that and just whittling it down and like it just keeps going down and then eventually we got to like 8 people and then we were playing full court on one court and everybody was watching and we were playing against the walk-ons that were there already and then like 2 GAs. And I remember I like played solid and I was like, all right, like this isn't like the regular tryout that I've had. Like if I leave here, like I'm fine with saying that I played good enough to just do well enough that I can be comfortable with if I made it or not. And I left, like prior to the tryout, I was the most like into the word that I've ever been in my life. And I was kind of scared after the tryout that, like I wasn't going to make it and just living with doubt. But then as I got into like the day after, I remember I was calling just like some mentors of mine that were just like pastors and just people that were super deep into the word. And I remember talking to them and I was just like deep in prayer, asking for prayer and, just continuously talking to them about it. And I was just like, I'm just going to give it to God. And that was the hardest thing to do. It's just like when you have something in your life like that, just giving it to God. But I remember just as like kind of how we talked earlier, just like acts of faith, just that made me feel like more comfortable. Things that I saw in the Bible, like how angels would fall on their face before God. And it talks about how like Abraham fell on his face before God and just being in full trust that God's got it. I would just, like all throughout the day, like if I had any time to come home after class or when I woke up, first thing I was doing is I would just get off my bed and I would fall on my face on my knees and I would just pray. And I would be like face down on the ground, just praying. And I would pray for 5 minutes or 15 minutes or 30 minutes or just however long I felt. And just kind of, that was the most peace I've ever been at in my life. Like in the most midst of like the biggest decision that would have altered my life looking back, that was the most peace I've been in. And I can't explain really, like the Bible says, like we can't explain like how the peace works or any of that, but just the peace that God surrounded me with and put in my life during that time, man, was just insane. So I obviously got to, go on the team. And I was pretty much for our first year, just help out with practice, go to the home games, get in for free. And
So backing up just a little bit. So when was the moment that you found out that you made the team?
so we had to wait I think it was 7 days exactly. It was like Friday to Friday. And throughout that whole week, man, just the prayer and I remember like I would be in the shower and I would just like kneel down in the shower, which sounds nasty now that I think about it. But I wasn't really thinking about the whole hygiene part of it at the time. So I was just like praying. And after that, 7 days go by of just wondering, and my mom texting every day. Got a text from this guy named JJ, who's one of our GAs now. And it was a group chat with like 5 people. And I go look at it, and they're just like all area codes of just different places. So I, of course, go look up the area codes to try to see if like I had known them from the tryout, to remember if they were where certain guys were from. And, I didn't know any of them. So I go, and like 7 days later, they just added us to that group chat, and they were like, hey, you guys are invited back to official practice. It'll be this day on this time, just be there. So we went in blind at like 6 a.m. and we got taped and went to practice, and we literally just like stood around and kind of just admired practice. And Coach Oats came up and talked to us, and he was just like, hey, like, nice to meet you, where are you from, all this. And just getting to talk to guys like that, like at first I was kind of just in awe, because I was just like, how do I deserve to be here? Like, how am I here? Because like I had never been in a position like that in my life. So that first day was crazy. And then they added us to the schedule of something we have on our phone called Teamworks, to where like it just pops up your schedule. They were just like, go by this. And I was just like, so just look at my phone every day and that'll tell me when practice is. And they were like, yeah. So started going to practice every day. And then throughout the year, there was 4 of us to start. And then they kind of dwindled down throughout the year. Like I think around Christmas time, 2 of the walk-ons, they were just like, hey, like, we don't need you anymore. And it kind of sucked to see them go, because they were good dudes. And, like just how much of a blessing this has been to me, like just seeing that get cut out of their life, just kind of sucked. But they cut them too. And then the season went on, and we got to the March Madness tournament. And I was in no way, shape, or form thinking that I was about to go. But the day before that practice that they were leaving, I had Max Sharnowski, one of the walk-ons now. He called me, and he was like, hey, man, pack a bag. I think you're going on the trip tomorrow, but I don't want you to get your hopes up and me be wrong. Just make sure you pack a bag just in case. And I was like, I'm not packing a bag. Like, I'm not going. So I didn't pack a bag because I didn't believe him. He was like, but if you don't pack a bag, you're going to be screwed, because the plane's going to leave and you're not going to be on it. So I get to practice the next day. I get taped and everything. And I remember we're going through what we call Blue Squad, which is our scout team. And we were going over plays for whoever we were about to play in the tournament. Who was first round? It would have been Charleston. And we played Charleston first round. We were going through, and I was just standing on the sides, and one of our coaches come up, and he was just like, congrats, man. And I was like, thanks, like, for what? Like, thank you. And then he just walked off, and I was like, that's weird. And then as we went out after film, we just kind of shoot around and listen to music. And I remember all of the guys just ran up to me and were like jumping on me and hugging me. And they were like, let's go. Clark's going on the trip. And I was like, y'all are lying. Like, that's not happening. And then after, they all jumped on me. I remember I walked to the bathroom and acted all cool, calm, and collected. And I went in the bathroom and I was like, let's go. Like, I just had to have a moment to myself, I guess. And I just prayed, and I just kept praying. I was like, thank you, God. Thank you, God. Like, this is unreal. So then after practice, I went home and had to pack a bag in like 10 minutes, thinking that we were going to be there for like, I didn't really know how the tournament worked. So I thought we were going to be there like max 2 weeks. I get back to my locker, and I didn't have a single thing Bama at the time. except a Nike Tech that they had given me at the beginning of the year. So I was like, I know I'm going to pack that. Other than that, I'm just going to have to scrounge up some basic clothes that don't have emblems on them. Well, I get back to my locker, and Garrett Walker, our guy for equipment, had just loaded my locker. And I was like, what? So we get back into the locker room, and it's another, I get tackled again, and they're like, let's go. And then I go home and pack my bag for like tops 5 days. And I'm just like, I packed like all the clothes that he had given me. And then I packed just like, like we were going to California. I was like, Spokane, then California. I was like, I'm not going to need a bunch of warm clothes. So I packed just some like shorts and stuff, nothing special. And God knows, we were there for like 5 weeks. And like, thank goodness we got some extra clothes while we were there. And Garrett washed all of our clothes like every day. But if he wouldn't have, I would have been cooked.
Dude, I had one tech suit.
Yeah, one tech suit and a couple of T-shirts, and that was about it. But yeah, man, we went on to go to that Final Four run, and that was the most special thing I've ever been a part of. Just the bond we had with that team, and just, nobody thought we were about to do that except us. So just having that self-belief that we were going to do that, and just, I remember when we were going into the Elite Eight game, we were playing Clemson, and we had already played Clemson. So we kind of had some confidence to where we knew we had played them before, and if it was time to beat them, it was going to be this time, the second time. Like, we didn't think they were going to beat us twice. So I remember there was an extra room for the locker room, and then there was an extra room off to the side where Latrell Reitzel had gotten hit in the head, and he was kind of out for this game. And I remember that he was sitting in that room by himself, and I come in there, and Trelly had written on the board, Final Four in Jesus' name. And I remember looking at the board, and I just thought, like, there was no way, no chance we're losing. Like, after I saw that, I was like, no chance. Went on to win and got to go to the Final Four, and Final Four was the most special thing I've ever been a part of. So just getting to go on that trip was insane.
That's truly an amazing story and incredible journey, and just the power of prayer and like what the Lord had done in your life and the blessings he gave you. There's no words to describe it.
When you hear Tuscaloosa, Alabama, this is probably not the action that comes to mind. Many associate our city with a football dynasty, and they're not wrong. But we are so much more. We want to show you a different side of Tuscaloosa, one that is slower and simpler, but equally as important. This is the side where we still appreciate sunsets, the morning calm, and the natural beauty that makes our community unique. Nestled away in the heart of West Alabama, Tuscaloosa offers an endless scene of outdoor adventure. You'll never run out of options. So whether you're looking for an adrenaline rush or a peaceful retreat, we have it all. From a state park to many lakes and rivers, green spaces and river walks, you can always enjoy the sunshine here. We hope this reminds you, in Tuscaloosa, many more adventures await.
What was it like to go from small town Alabama to playing an Elite Eight game? You're walking into the home of the Los Angeles Lakers.
Man, I remember just growing up, like watching everybody. I was probably a Heat fan. Like, LeBron's my GOAT. Like, I can't tell anybody else that anybody else is the GOAT. So I get in arguments with our teammates a lot about stuff like that. But I just, like, growing up watching Bron on the Heat, like, I loved the Heat, and obviously the Lakers are who they are. So then LeBron goes to the Lakers, and I'm just like, man, like, I'm a huge Bron fan. Like, I'm not a Lakers fan, but I'm a huge Bron fan. So growing up, it was cool to just, like, never thought I'd be in a situation, like, I wouldn't even, like, dreamed of being in a situation like this. So then we start winning, and I remember, like, first day, like, we go straight from Spokane to, LA, and when we were in Spokane, we were practicing at Gonzaga, and, like, Gonzaga's nice. But then we go from Gonzaga to Crypto Arena, and I was just like, this isn't real. Like, walking in and seeing, like, it was almost just like an old time, like, movie, like what you would see, like, was showing on the movies. and it was like who was playing, and it had all the teams listed. And I remember just walking by seeing like Alabama versus North Carolina, seeing stuff like that, and just being like, dang, like I'm really like playing. Like I remember we ran out on the court for our first shoot around, and like all the fans were there and they played Sweet Home Alabama, and I was just like, this is real, like this is awesome. So just stuff like that just really, like, especially when we got to like Phoenix, and Phoenix was like 75,000 people there, like and the court's elevated and everything's dark around the court except the court itself. So you're running out and it's kind of dark, and then you step up on the court and it's just almost like you just fall over, like everything's so bright, and looking up into the crowd and like seeing your family there, it's awesome. And just like, I don't know, it's unreal.
When you were warming up in that national championship game, what was going through your head, like first shot that you took on that floor?
I airballed. Real deal. Like I remember I was like, this feels weird. Like I was shooting layups and like I was like, oh, this is cool, like being on the floor. And I remember like we were like shooting just like middies, like just like warming up, just form shooting and stuff. I was like, it looks weird because like the court's like elevated and like the depth behind the goal is weird. And I remember we were doing this drill where we just all shoot in a line. And I remember everybody was like hitting, and I was like, I gotta hit. So I'm like last dude in line, I catch it, fired up, and I airballed, and I just heard somebody go, dang. I was like, oh, man. First shot, airball. And I mean, you adjust kind of, but like it's different for sure. The big court, like my high school was like, I never played in like a state championship game or anything, so I never played in the big Coliseum. So that was really my first time like shooting on the big courts with the backdrop, and it's different because I mean, like I said, airball, first shot. So it was embarrassing for sure.
We can move to a happier moment. So
for sure, hopefully.
First Final Four in the history of Alabama. If you had to pick one memory from that journey, like what would be your favorite memory?
Wow. I mean, as much as I could sit here and talk about how fun winning was, that's the best part. But I think just being able to spend that extra time with the guys that, you know, like we had a lot of guys transfer out. And if you would have asked me during the tournament, I would have said for sure winning. But now since like, you know, we've got Dav went to Wake Forest, you know, KP went to Villanova, you've got Rylan went to Kansas, Pringle went to, you know, South Carolina. You've got all these dudes, like one of my best friends, Sam and Kai, they both transferred out to Marshall and Michigan, and like everybody left. And just like seeing like your guys, like you're with them 8 hours a day, 10 hours a day, and then you travel with them and you literally live with them on the road for like a month. You become so close. So I think the memories of just having all those guys like that you become best friends with, and then it's just like all that time that you get to spend, like we were doing fun activities, like, you know, like we're super locked down on the road, but all those times like just in the hotel in Phoenix, we had a game room. So it was like ping pong, we had Jenga, but we had like 3 TVs that they had brought in, and they gave us a PlayStation, an Xbox, and put all the games on it. So we were in there playing Madden, 2K, like grinding the games just all the time. We would go out in the city sometimes and just like when we would have free time kind of explore. Like some of us had never been to Cali, me especially, and getting to do stuff like that with the team, I would say was my favorite part. Just, you know, like, because then everybody leaves and you realize like you really only get one shot with this team, and just the opportunity you have to grow and bond and have an impact on each other's lives, because like everybody grows up so different. Like just all my teammates like are wired differently, and they've been through different things and they think differently, and just the opportunity that I have to learn from them, from the way that they think, from the experiences that they've grown through. Because, you know, luckily I've had a pretty good life where I haven't, you know, I feel like compared to the other guys that I've heard stories from and stuff from, like they've been through a lot more than me. So I'm so blessed to just be able to learn from them and be able to take notes on just stuff that they've been through. and just, grow with them through those experiences. So I would just say, man, just being able to spend time with them and just have fun with them, because it does not last forever.
Yeah, no, so many great experiences that you shared, and memories that will last probably a lifetime. So that's just great, and probably more to come this year. Circling back, when you found out that you made the team at Alabama, how did that impact your faith?
100%. I mean, I had talked to my dad, and I was just calling him every day, to a sense, you've always heard Christianity, when you hear about Jesus and the things he did in the Bible, they almost sound fake. Because how crazy would it be if in our day and age we just had this dude that came up and just called himself the chosen one and turned water to wine and healed the sick, helped paralyzed people walk, and the miracles that he beat death. That doesn't sound real. And just the miracles in the Bible, God is the same yesterday, today, and forever. He's not going to change. So I truly believe that he is the same God that performed those miracles back in those days, and that he's the same God that can do it today. But growing up, I had never had a miracle happen in my life, I felt like. So I was like, man, this is my miracle. So I got the opportunity to, make the team, and just the faith that I'd put in God, that I was just at so much peace that I was going to make the team once I'd heard that, how it was going to go and how I performed, and just how much faith I had in God. I truly believed that a miracle was going to happen, and then it did. So just finally seeing that breakthrough of my whole life going with it's easy for people to be just give it all to God. But how do you do that? I'm that's a question I was asking myself. But once I feel like you fully just spend time with God, and instead of like me and my brother talk about it the other time, kind of praying Psalms, and just read a verse, and then just kind of in Psalms, and whatever comes to your mind, you pray about it. And then you read the next verse and you pray about it. And just rooting God so deeply in your life is truly how I gave it to God. And just having that opportunity to give it to God, like you talked about in James, just that's an opportunity to have joy in your circumstances, whether they're good or bad or whatever they are. Just being able to have faith like that just, it just solidified God was real for me. And I never really had a question, but man, just seeing that miracle come to life for me and everything that it's done for me, it's hard for me to not believe in Jesus. So
what is it like to be a Christian on Alabama's basketball team?
I think it's great. I mean, I think there's so much opportunity with it. I think that especially now, coming in, we were the number 2 team in the nation, I think, at the beginning of the season. And I mean, we haven't dropped far below that. There's a lot of spotlight on us. And I believe that the world, especially now, is the most cruel and secular place we've lived in. And just having the spotlight on, I'm not going to say I have tons of spotlight on me, but just being a part of this team that has so much spotlight, I know for sure that there is opportunity for me to spread the good news. And just, any opportunity for that, whether I can spread it to one person or 1,000, I think it's just such a great opportunity that we have with all this spotlight on us.
Mm-hmm. Right, and using that spotlight to, deflect the light that's on the program for the basketball team, and deflecting that light to point towards Jesus. It's just such an amazing opportunity with the platform that you all have. And there's so many of you that do a great job with that and are outspoken and do share the good news. So I commend you all for that. Do you guys have team Bible studies?
Yeah, so actually before every game, we have our chapel, Scotty. He'll come in and we have chapel, like I said, before every game. It's probably 2.5, 3 hours before every game where, whoever wants to come in, but it's usually the whole team will come in and sit and we'll go through just whatever he's gotten for us. And, it is just whatever God's laid on his heart, but it's usually something pertaining to like something that we can apply to our daily life and something that will relate to the game that we have. So yeah, I think we have that. And we had for a while, we were doing, Scotty had organized it where the verse of the day would pop up on our phones, and we had a group chat going with like 7 or 8 of us, where when the verse of the day came in through the Bible app, you would send what you got from the verse of the day, and then you would watch like the 3-minute video that popped up with it. So just seeing, like I said, like it's crazy like how differently wired everybody's brain is, and just to see how different people think and what different things, like I could read a verse and then you could read a verse and then Houston could read a verse, and it could mean 3 different things to each of us. So just seeing that different perspective from all 3 of us, it helped me a lot in the group chat. So that was something that we did, was just implementing that, what it meant to us in the group chat. And then obviously we do chapel before games, but yeah, that's one.
Yeah, and that's amazing that the majority of your team is in that group chat, and the opportunity for you guys to grow on the court, but also grow in your faith off the court through sharpening each other in your spiritual walk. It's amazing. Speaking of Bible verses, do you have a favorite Bible verse?
Yeah, I would say that my favorite passage in the Bible would be Romans 6. And that's just, man, if you haven't read that, or if anybody watching hasn't read that, that is so important to just, it talks about that even though God has, or Jesus has died on the cross for us, like, and given us mercy and given us grace, like, are we to go on sinning? And it says by no means. And it just goes down the list, and it's just, the whole chapter is so good. And it just talks about, like, man, it's so good just to read that whole chapter. And it just talks about God's, Jesus has died for us, but just because we have grace and we have that forgiveness, are we supposed to continue in it, in the sin? And obviously the answer is no. But I would say, other than that, 1 Corinthians 3 verses 7 and 9, it says, so neither the one who plants nor the one who waters is anything, but only God who makes things grow. The one who plants and the one who waters have one purpose, and they will each be rewarded according to their own labor. For we are co-workers in God's service. You are God's field and God's building. So I think that's hit me, because I think it's so easy in sports to just, like, because we work hard. Like, there's no denying that. Like, we're there for probably 8 hours a day, just like when you account like film and then like extra workouts that we do and practice itself. There's a lot of opportunity to shed the light on me, because yeah, I work hard, but who has given me the opportunity to be in the positions to work hard? And who has given me there's people out there who literally like can't walk, can't breathe good, like can't shoot a basketball as well as I can, just because they have things that, like, physical things that have happened to them in life. And just to have the opportunity to, be able to work hard and like to use it to shed light on God, like you were saying, just like it said, like, we are God's field and God's building. Like, it's not me, it's all about God.
So the story that you shared about your life and your basketball career, it truly is a miracle. Like, and it's just unheard of. Like the journey that you went down, like your dad you took your letter that you got a scholarship, an academic scholarship to go to Alabama, crumbled it up, put it in a trash can. He dug it out, and had he not done that, you probably wouldn't be here today. Is that right?
100%.
And so it's truly a miracle how everything transpired from that moment. But I feel like it could be, after that miracle occurs and like you've received this like incredible blessing, that there's probably been some challenges that have risen, over the course of the last year. So are there any challenges that you feel you faced over the last year that have like tested your faith, and how have you responded?
Yeah, man. we go to probably one of the biggest party schools in the nation. And it's easy to come home after a 30-point win and go out and, participate in these secular events that are going on, and to go out and to, do whatever you want, and just like to receive the praise of other people, and to honestly be selfish and be admired and accept that. But I think as Christians, that's not what we're called to do. I think that it is hard to, like, when somebody's coming up to you and like they're like, man, y'all did good tonight, like you did so good, like, especially like not me specifically, but when they're talking about the team, it's easy to fall in line and just be like, yeah, man, thanks, like, and just be like, we work hard, it's all about us, and just go out after that and just use that excitement to party and stuff like that. Like I said, like, we go to one of the most secular universities, on the planet, and it's so easy to fall into that and just fall into the pattern of that. And that's definitely a test of faith when you think about it. But I mean, I think just trying not to fall into that, and just, it's easy on a Saturday night after a big win to go out and be like, okay, I'm going to go out and go to the bar. It's a Saturday night, I'm going to go out till like 2 or 3 in the morning. Okay, well then you missed the 9:45 church service. So then what? So I mean, everything comes with a sacrifice. Like, yeah, I don't think it's bad to go out and have fun with your friends, but like when it turns out, a guy I know, one of my teachers in high school, Southern school, like we used to always talk about church and stuff, and he would always tell me, his name was Ryan Anderson. He used to always tell me that if you're going to do anything on Saturday night that prevents you from not being able to get to church on Sunday morning, you shouldn't be doing it. So that stuck with me. Just, he said somebody told him that, but just being able to just think about that and think about choices that are going to affect my choice on the next day.
And so going forward, what do you see as like the next chapter in your life, like after basketball? What are some of your goals?
To be honest, I'm not sure what I want to do career-wise, but in anything like we've talked about, in anything I do, I want to share the word of God and be a light through him. I pray that every day, that I'm just a light to others, and that others would see him through me. Mm-hmm. Just, in whatever I choose to do. Like, I love coaching. Mm-hmm. So, I mean, I would like to coach, but also I don't know if I would want to coach at the college level, because there's not as much time for family. And that's like one of my goals, is to, find my wife and create a family that honors and fears God, and, just eventually have a good wife and a good family, and just be able to, create disciples through others. And just whatever I choose to do, family's definitely at the top of the list.
And then, having gone from a small city to Tuscaloosa, I'll ask you the same question I asked Houston. What are some of your favorite food spots?
Chuck's is good. Like Houston said, they kind of help us out and do a lot with the team. And when we have pregame meals, like the night before, we'll go eat sometimes. Chuck's is usually where we go, and man, their sushi's really good. So I like sushi, and they got a good steak. Jack Brown's, that's a good burger spot. Mm-hmm. I really like Moe's Southwest. I feel like I eat there like 3 times a week. And I mean, in my opinion, unpopular opinion, it's better than Chipotle, but I don't know. It's just, that's probably my top 3 right there.
And then the last question for you is, what are 2 things that Coach Oats has taught you?
I think, just as Houston said, like, Oats is the biggest competitor I've ever met in my life. Like, I think if anything, it would be to compete in all facets of our lives. And, like, that can be from, like, if me and you play rock, paper, scissors, or if we go play a basketball game tomorrow. And I think just competing in that and wanting to win in everything. But, also, I think what Coach Oats has taught me the most is, Coach Oats is making fine money, and he's, really raised our program up and put it on a pedestal that it was not on before. And, we're when people think about good college basketball teams, I'm sure Alabama's one that they think of. And he still is learning every day. And I think that that's something that he's taught me is that, like, even though he's obviously so much smarter than a lot of the people that he's around and just everything that he goes through, he's always trying to learn. And I know, like, he sat us down when we've supposed to had like a long film or even go to practice, and he would sit us down and he would be like, all right, we're not doing that. How can we fix things as a coaching staff? And he would put bullet points up on the board, and he would let us talk to him as a team. And some coaches are not doing that. Like, they're not willing to sit and listen. And I remember he's done that multiple times the 2 years I've been here, where he's just sat down and listened to us and how can I learn from you guys? And just, like, I think, like, being in any position in life, there's always somebody you can learn from. Like, there's never anybody that's below you that can't teach you something. So I just think being able to learn from everybody was just the biggest thing I've learned from Coach Oats.
What were you doing earlier today when your teammate reached out to you, asking you if you'd be willing to share your faith on a podcast?
I was playing Fortnite, and Houston called me, and, you know, I don't get any minutes on the team. Like, I'm not a vital player in our team. Like, I'm probably contribute, like, the managers contribute just as much as I do, just as, like, they're a big part in our staff, and I think that they need the light just as the athletic trainers do, and the Garrett and Amanda, our nutritionist and equipment guy, and, you know, everybody from just the guys who cut film. Like, I think they need some light on their names too, because they do just as much as we do. But in my first thought, I was like, why would he want me on a podcast? Because he called me and was like, you want to get on this podcast with me? And I was like, sure, but, like, for what? And when he said faith, I immediately yes. So just the opportunity to, you know, get on here and share my faith and share my story. I've never shared it with anybody, and I think that just I always prayed that God would just give me an opportunity to, you know, be a light and spread his word and just be a light to others. And when he said that I could come on this podcast with him, I thought it was a great opportunity to do that. So I just thank you for letting me do that.
Yeah, well, no, thanks so much for saying yes, and I'm excited to see how your story touches the lives of others, and you know, can't wait to see how things play out for you as well. So appreciate your time today.
Appreciate you.
Visit Tuscaloosa is proud to sponsor this podcast series. Tuscaloosa isn't just a place, it's a way of life. It's where game day is more than a tradition. With wide open waters and endless skies, art, music, and culture paint the city's soul. So whether you come for the thrill, the taste, the beauty, or the tradition, you'll stay for the Tusca life. Are you ready to feel it? Head to visittuscaloosa.com to plan your trip today.